Thursday, October 19th. John Aravosis here with the Aravosis Report, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. to talk about the latest news from Ukraine and Israel. Let me get rolling here on my iPad, as always. Israel and Ukraine update. There we go. And introduce yourselves, say where you're from, the usual. And then we'll wait a minute or two for folks to arrive, and then we will get rolling. So let me get this rolling on my TikTok. Choom, choom. The sun is setting just as we're speaking. Anyway, how are we all today? Thursday. Oh, actually, we're close to the coffee talk. I forgot I got to put that on my list too. Got to put that on my list. Coffee talk. All right, there we go. Anyway, hello all. Hello all. How are we today? It's funny. It didn't feel like a busy news day. And once again, I've got 6 pages of notes, which means it's going to be a long one. But what do you do? I tried cutting stuff back. There isn't much to cut back. So, hey, Ash. Ready to batten down the hatches? Good evening, everybody. Munich. Hello. I've never been to Munich. I haven't been much to Germany at all. I've been to Berlin, to Bonn, and to Frankfurt. Thank you, John S. But some of it was work. Well, I got to see Berlin at least, which was lovely. So I'm good today, Evie. Thank you. Hey, Jetta Mom. Thank you for that. So I'm putting on my air in my apartment so it gets a little bit cooler here. Hey, North Carolina. Bjorn from Germany. Hello. There we go. Oh boy. Good. You're not looking at the news. That's good. Excellent. Thank you, Jew boy. Your name always cracks me up. Thank you guys for the gifts. Appreciate it on TikTok. One of our ships did shoot down some drones and missiles. Not as scary as it sounds. We'll be talking about that. Thank you, Shane. But we'll talk about that. It's not great, but it's not as bad as it sounds at the same time. Storm happening in the UK. Is that metaphorical or for real? I have been to Russia twice. I was there when it was the Soviet Union, and then I was there once it was not the Soviet Union. But I went to Moscow, Leningrad at the time. And then once it wasn't the Soviet Union, it was only 2 years after. Thank you, Pedro. 1993, I went to Kamchatka, which is very interesting. Kamchatka Peninsula. I know, I love my little New York mug. I got this when I was living there because I thought, you know what? I'm living in New York City. I'm getting a New York mug. So this is my little New York mug. I'm hoping it. The other one I got didn't last very well because they're kind of cheap, but what do you do? Hoping this one lasts. But yeah, Soviet Union, very scary, very scary. What year did you visit prior to the fall? I was in the Soviet Union in 1984 in February, which was a crazy time to be there. It was when all the Soviet leaders were dying. They'd already lost. I'm trying to think. I can never remember. I think Andropov had just died, who I think might have been the second one to die. And they hadn't even picked the new leader yet. Thank you, Alex. So it was a crazy time because they were between leaders. Thank you, Adventures. And 1984 was, the height of the evil empire, Soviet Union too. This was pre-Gorbachev. I've got a lot of stuff from that trip. Yeah. A lot of memorabilia. It was fascinating. Horrifying country. Soviet Union, just as bad as they say, but nice people. The people I met were very nice. Well, we can talk about my Soviet trip at some point. It was quite nice. I enjoyed it. My TikTok sounds louder than on YouTube. Well, YouTube adjusts. The YouTube has an adjustment that automatically adjusts the speaker, which is probably why. So, yes, Amanda, give us a quick dog update, and then we'll get rolling. We raised money, remember, to help do surgery for Amanda's dog that had a tumor in her mouth. So, just get a quick update. There we go. Anyway, all right, guys, I think I'll get rolling here. So welcome. I am John Aravosis. This is the Aravosis Report. This is my show I do every Monday to Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. And we talk about the war in Ukraine, but lately we've been talking about Israel as well, because that's obviously a big international story. War related, by the way, as well, So that's not, it's related in terms of the players, America, Russia, Iran, all this kind of stuff. So I think it's, anyway, I think it's important to talk about it. I find both issues very interesting, and I find them both very important. So we will start with Israel, then we'll do Ukraine. There's a lot of news today, I will tell you. So we're going to be talking about both in depth. Since today's Thursday, I will remind you, Saturday morning is our coffee talk for the TikTokers, where I host a special show Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, U.S. for the paid monthly subscribers as a thank you. Those are the folks who donate monthly, which you can do on TikTok, by becoming a TikTok subscriber. You can do it on YouTube. The folks with the green names like Susan and the others are monthly subscribers. You guys can do it with the $sign that's at the bottom by the comments. You can do it on Discord itself. You can do it on Ko-fi. I've got a Ko-fi link on the bottom of the screen for you guys who know Ko-fi. For you guys, there's a link in my bio on TikTok. Click it or go to Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com/Aravosis. And anyway, Twitch as well. So lots of different ways. Thank you, Jewboy. But for the monthly subscribers on TikTok, you can join us on TikTok. It should be like $7.99 a month. On TikTok, it's a little less because TikTok set it up cheaper, $5.99. And I haven't updated it because I didn't want to change it on everybody. So TikTok's a little cheaper. Thank you, Mark, for the heart. But the other ones are $7.99. But what was I going to say? In any case, if you can help out, I'd appreciate it. But you can join us on TikTok for the TikTok folks, 11 a.m. Eastern time, Saturday morning. And for the rest of you, go to Discord. You'll be able to access it on Discord. All right. Let me jump in, guys. So Israel, Israel's defense minister says they will soon be inside Gaza. That's really sort of the next big thing we're waiting for to see. Will Israel invade Gaza? Just to remind you, so there were really horrific terrorist attacks on Israel 2 weeks ago this Saturday, so we're already at about 12 days or so. They came from Gaza, this Palestinian territory down here, sort of Palestine, a Palestinian state made up of the West Bank and Gaza. Gaza is right here, about 2 million people. Thank you, Lizard Man, for the gift. Gaza is made up of about 2 million people. I believe I saw this yesterday. I think it's like 1.3 million are Palestinians, something like that. The rest of them are other Arabs, other Middle Easterners, whatever. But the attacks against Israel were perpetrated by Hamas, which is a terrorist group that runs Gaza. They're basically in control of Gaza. So with Israel responding to the attacks, it's complicated because they're basically going after a territory that is very high density civilians, but it's run by terrorists. So the government is literally a terrorist. I mean, literally a terrorist organization runs the government. So as you can imagine, gets a little dicey when Israel responds and tries to take out the government, which they're doing because there's so many civilians. So that's sort of the controversy in a nutshell. We are waiting to see if Israel was going to invade Gaza. The defense ministry said today that they are getting ready to invade Gaza. So that supposedly will be coming up tonight at 8 o'clock Eastern time, US. That's in 2 hours from now. President Biden will be doing an address to the nation. Thank you, Kankaranga. Will be doing an address to the nation from the Oval Office. And keep in mind that in America, the Oval Office is the office of the president in the White House, okay? Oval Office addresses do not happen that often. Thank you, Sean. They are held for very important discussions where the president speaks to the nation. Biden is going to be talking about Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. And I'm going to read you a little bit from NBC, sort of explaining more of what Biden's going to be talking about. One of Biden's aims will be to explain to Americans how Israel and Ukraine conflicts connect to our lives back here. Jonathan Feiner, a White House Deputy National Security Advisor, said on NBC this morning, he will use the address to lay out how support from the American people and the Congress is essential to maintaining this national leadership the U.S. is showing to steer these conflicts in the best possible direction. That's a bit of blah, blah, blah. Basically, well, he goes on to say that then Biden's going to use the speech tonight to push for an aid package for Congress to pass. Of course, they've got to get a speaker first, but for Congress to pass for Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan. The ballpark numbers that are being put out right now is 60 billion with a B. Thank you, Ben, for the gift on TikTok. Keep the gifts coming, guys. I didn't do my gift pitch, but I always like to remind folks, in case there's new people, thank you, Noah, that I do this for free and I do it full time. And the way I'm able to afford this is with your guys' gifts. So basically, keep them coming. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Marcy, and Happy Beach. Very nice, very generous of you, Derek. And Jetta, I know. And then it's like my punishment that I ask for gifts and then you guys give them. But I do appreciate it. Thank you. So the amount Biden's going to ask for, thank you. Was it, Ambeya, maybe? That looked like it was a little bit of Cyrillic mixed with English. Big Hawk, Tatiana, so many. Oh, Amber. I'm saying Ambeya. It's Amber with the backwards R. Cute. Very cute. Thank you, Shanlin. No, thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. So thank you, Desi Lee and Nicola. The idea is that Biden reportedly, Chad and Remy Juice, I can never pronounce your name, that Biden's reportedly going to ask for around $100 billion, $60 billion for Ukraine, $40 billion that would be for Israel, Taiwan, and I think, and the U.S.-Mexican border. By the way, separately, Biden has also allocated $100 million with an M for humanitarian aid to Gaza and the West Bank. That's already been announced today. Now, a number of things are interesting about Biden doing this speech tonight. It's interesting that he's linking all the issues together. Okay, Israel, Taiwan, Ukraine, and the U.S.-Mexican border. He's also asking for money to beef up the U.S.-Mexican border, which is very interesting. Let me start with that one. That one is basically to, you could argue it's a little bit of a cave to Republican critics who have criticized Biden and said, look, you're interested in defending Ukraine's border. Why don't you defend our border with Mexico? So Biden looks like he's going to call them on it and say, I want money to do whatever at the U.S.-Mexican border. Thank you, Kim, which frankly, I think is a good idea anyway, because too many people, in my opinion, too many people do cross the border illegally. And politically, it's not a bad idea either, but I think also just basic policy-wise, it's a good idea. So that's smart of Biden. Linking this with Taiwan and Israel is fascinating to me. Now, thank you, Mark. Now, there's a positive and a negative to this. The idea, thank you, Mustard, the idea of Biden speaking tonight to the nation and pitching Israel, pitching Ukraine aid, pitching money to defend Taiwan, right? Money for the border. Thank you, Bruce and Kevin. The idea here is to, and Steve, very nice gift there, Steve. Thank you. The idea is to tie a bunch of things together so that it's very hard for anybody to say no. Like Israel. Israel's the number one thing. They've got to pass the aid for Israel. Nobody in Congress, not nobody, but very few. Thank you, Derek and Lizard Man. Appreciate it. Nobody in Congress, very few in Congress would have the nerve to oppose aid to Israel right now. Thank you, Steve. So that's going to pass. That's not an issue. Tying the other things to aid to Israel, in principle, helps them get through, right? Thank you, Kronos. Taiwan. Aid for Taiwan or aid to beef up our effort to defend Taiwan. It might be aid for us to have weapons. It might be aid for Taiwan to get weapons. Biden will be speaking at 8 o'clock Eastern time U.S., so that's 2 hours from now. Thank you, Courtney and Happy Beach. And Martin. What was I going to say with this? Oh, yeah. So tying them all together might help them all get through because people would not want to kill the bill because of Ukraine because it's got Israel too. The only danger you have is it's always possible somebody might say no. And you might need, so I just don't know. I think it's interesting Biden's doing this. What I've said before to you guys, and I did some TikTok videos on this as well today. I think it is important for Biden to explain to people why we are in these conflicts. Meaning, why does it matter for America to help Ukraine? Why should we spend the money? Why should we spend the political diplomatic capital? Why should we risk pissing off Russia, right? I mean, we should talk about why it matters. Why does it matter if Russia were to win the war in Ukraine? How does it affect U.S. national security, right? Thank you, Adventure and Succeed. And I think it's Biden's obligation to explain that to the American people. I don't think he's done a good job of it. And I don't think he's tried to do a good job of it. Aflac. I'm forgetting the Aflac duck. Sorry, guys. Thank you for that. That's the first thing. Second of all, Israel, same thing, right? If we're going to be moving aircraft carriers to the region, which we did, if we're moving Marines to the region, which we did, not too many, a couple thousand, there might be a couple thousand more coming. Thank you, Joe, for that. I think it's important that Biden explain to the American people why, again, if it is U.S. policy to defend Israel, I'm not even taking a side and saying this, it's U.S. policy to defend Israel. If we are going to move military assets to the region to defend Israel, we should explain to the American people why it matters. Thank you, killers. And it's not just a sort of moral or whatever argument. It's not like the people to have the right to know. It's politically, if you're Biden, you want more money for Ukraine. Politically, if you're Biden, thank you, Ava, you want the American people to agree with you on Israel, to continue supporting, the efforts. Therefore, you should be explaining to them why it matters. And Taiwan too, frankly. I mean, Taiwan, thank you, Pam. Most Americans are not big fans of China. I don't think it's a heavy sell as to why we should be helping Taiwan. But honestly, it still helps to be putting it out there. Now, the final point I want to make about this, I do think as well that there's something, if Biden's smart about this, I am not a big fan of Biden's ability to communicate. I don't think he's never been a great communicator. And as he's gotten older, he's even worse. So he's not I still think his brain is there. People like to say he's brain dead or whatever. He's not. I think his brain is there. I think he's fine as far as that goes. But he sounds old. You know what I mean? He just doesn't communicate well. He doesn't. Let's be honest about it. If he's smart, he will take the opportunity tonight to talk about Taiwan, Ukraine, Israel, and talk about we live in a dangerous world, right? We live in a world where our enemies are not, even if America focuses at home and doesn't focus abroad anymore, that doesn't stop our enemies from focusing abroad. Whether it's Russia in Europe, whether it's terrorists in the Middle East, whether it's China with Taiwan in Asia, but our enemies are on the march, right? They're on the march in the Middle East, they're on the march in Europe, they're on the march in Asia, and it's not going to stop just because we decide to pull out, right? That it's and then you have to explain why that matters. In other words, it would be dangerous for America if we simply turn our back on the world and let the bad guys take over. Will Biden explain that? I don't know. So I'm very intrigued he's linking all this together. Anyway, Biden's speech to the nation will be at 8:00 Eastern time US tonight. I don't know if I'm going to go live. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know that I want to put the moderators through that. Maybe I'll consider going live for the paid subscribers. I don't think I want to do it for everybody because it's too much. And honestly, the mods get tired enough having to deal with with the lives lately. Let me see, Ash. I'll see how I feel. I mean, one other problem is it's kind of hard to watch. It's hard for me to watch the TV when I've got this on at the same time. But let's see. We can see. Thank you, Martin. Very nice and very cute gift. Who is that? Nemo, I think. 6 Evo has a super chat question, which remember, I always answer the super chat questions first. Can Biden's speech cause outrage in other countries leading to preemptive strikes? For example, Iran joining the war. I mean, yes and no. Biden's speech will, I'm sure, cause outrage in other countries because Biden, burping would cause outrage in other countries. There was somebody on who I very much like on Twitter today, but he was talking about how, Biden better be careful tonight because by linking Ukraine to Israel, his allies in the Middle East, may get very upset with him and this kind of stuff. And I said, honestly, thank you, Sean. Very nice gift there on TikTok. Thank you very much. I was like, I kind of have a feeling like our allies in the Middle East are going to get pissed off no matter what we do. And this is just the allies, everyone else, especially people in the Middle East are going to get pissed off at us no matter what we do. I mean, literally, unless we literally sacrifice Israel to the gods on top of the mountain, they're not going to be happy with us. So I'm not sure I care how they're going to react. I mean, I think he needs to do what he thinks is best for American national security. And if that means supporting Israel, that means supporting the Arabs, do what is best for America in the long run. I mean, every country does that, by the way. Second of all, so it'll cause outrage. I'm sure it'll cause outrage. I don't really care. Thank you, boy, mom. Secondly, Iran's going to enter the war. Iran's not going to enter the war because they didn't like Biden's speech. That's not going to happen. That's not how it's going to work. I'm just that. Yeah. I mean, Iran's going to enter the war based on a calculus, again, of their own country and the Iranians too. Just like I say about Putin, I think the Iranian government, they're asses, just like the Russian government's asses, but they're not stupid and they're not crazy. I don't think they're crazy. They're a little fanatical, but I don't think they're crazy. They're going to enter the war based on what they think is best. Thank you, Pam, for themselves. So no, the speech is not what's going to kick it off. No. I will say this. I'm sure Biden will say things to try to placate people around the world. And, Palestinians are not the enemy. He'll say that kind of stuff. In the end, no one's going to care. I mean, this issue, how this issue is anyway. Like Biden could say anything that's going to win people over who aren't already on his side. It's not going to happen. All right, a little more on this. Yes, so that was the Oval Office address tonight. Like I said, if I go live, it'll be spur of the moment. I'll let you guys know. I mean, it'll just be spur of the moment, like I said. Oops, sorry, let me look here. Okie dokie. Hey, Victor, you're back. Good to see you. 32 American citizens have died in Israel and 11 remain unaccounted for, according to the U.S. State Department. There was a weird story today of a U.S. destroyer, U.S. warship. Thank you, Ben. In the Red Sea, I've got my, I don't have a, oh, I do. Well, I've got the map. Okay. This map isn't going to help us because it's not on this map, but I can show you off of the map. So Israel in yellow, Gaza's right here. This is Egypt. You've got the Red Sea, and you go kind of all the way down here, more or less. There was a U.S. warship off of Yemen. Yemen, kind of a, again, more or less country. Saudi Arabia is over here, kind of a country over here. It's actually bigger than this, but you get the idea. And a series of drones, maybe, I think it was, actually, I've got it here, whether it was 12 or 24. It was a lot of drones and apparently 3 cruise missiles. Thank you, Trilitic. Started heading north. And the warship, I think, was concerned that the warship was concerned that the drones and the cruise missiles might be heading for the U.S. warship itself. They shot everything down. Further analysis suggests that it was an attack against Israel from Yemen, but from the rebels, the Iranian-supported rebels in Yemen, launched cruise missiles and drones against Israel, which was interesting because I wouldn't have expected it to come from Yemen necessarily. This comes on the heels of, nearly 24 drones, the Pentagon said, which was quite a lot. Let me see this. The destroyer intercepted multiple projectiles heading from Yemen. The drones attacked there were also drone attacks against a U.S. military base Tuesday and again Wednesday near the Syrian-Jordan border, causing minor injuries. The attack at Al-Tanf base happened the same day a U.S. base in Iraq also came under a drone attack. And at the U.S. base in Iraq, a U.S. contractor died of a heart attack while running for cover. So a lot of turmoil beginning in the region, clearly. Some good news, Egypt is preparing to open its southern border with Gaza. Again, this is all Egypt. This is Gaza right here, the territory we're sort of talking about. Southern border. Now, Israel blockades this border and has for a long time now, 15 years or 16 years or so, I think. Thank you, Matt. Egypt blockades the southern border of Gaza for the same period of time. You won't hear that from a lot of people. They will not mention to you that the Egyptians have been blockading this area as long as the Israelis have been doing it, but Egypt has been doing it too, because the Israelis don't want these guys coming into Israel, and the Egyptians really don't want these guys coming into Egypt either. That's a whole other ongoing issue of the Arab countries being worried about extremists coming in. They also don't want the Palestinian refugees. They don't want them. Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. That's a whole other sort of long history of the Arab world talks a good talk about the Palestinians, but when it comes to actually helping the Palestinians, they really don't. They just don't. You guys can Google the history. Thank you, Ebo, for the gift there. In any case, Egypt is preparing to open its border on the southern area to let in 20 trucks carrying humanitarian aid. President Biden reportedly negotiated the deal with the Egyptians. The UN is concerned that it's not enough, that basically 20 vehicles won't be enough to make enough of a difference. Having said that, it's a start, which is good, but they're going to need to get more humanitarian aid in. The Associated Press reports that Hamas, the terrorist group that runs Gaza, that did the terrorist attacks against Israel, that Israel is now attacking in Gaza, likely used North Korean arms in the attack on Israel on October 7th. Now, some experts had said that apparently this is not new, however. In other words, this is not like an escalation. A quote from one weapons expert was, North Korea has long supported Palestinian militant groups, and North Korean arms have previously been documented among interdicted supplies. So just for that. Thank you, Kronos. And finally, the State Department issued a worldwide warning to Americans traveling abroad because of the Middle East situation. And the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon told Americans to leave as soon as possible. Now, Lebanon, it's because the situation there is expected to get hot pretty fast. Thank you, Kronos. Israel in yellow. Lebanon's right up here. Again, Gaza's down here. Lebanon's up here. The concern about Lebanon is the Lebanese government not very strong. You've got a terrorist group basically running the south of Lebanon called Hezbollah, again, tied to Iran. Big surprise. And the concern is that Hezbollah is already firing into Israel rockets, but they might actually invade northern Israel. And just the situation in Lebanon in general for Americans, very dangerous. So they're saying to get out. All right, that is it for the Israel updates. I've got a lot more about Ukraine I'm going to give you right now. Hey, Will. Let me do a quick pitch for my membership. So I was telling you guys Saturday morning, I do a coffee talk for TikTok and coffee talk for the rest of you on Discord. Excuse me. And it is a weekly show I do typically every Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern time, U.S., where we talk about Ukraine. We'll also talk about Israel. Usually my friend Vlad in Ukraine joins us as well. And it's a thank you for the folks who are the monthly subscribers who basically, give me a monthly contribution automatically. On TikTok, you guys can do it by becoming TikTok subscribers. I think there's a star or something near the bottom of the screen. Mods, I always forget this. Help me out. That folks can join. Thank you, Rooster. You'll notice the TikTok subscribers are the folks that have SNN next to their name. Jedamom, we've got Poppy, Carla, etc. You get access to some emojis and some fun stuff too. But basically, you get the comfort of knowing you're helping support my work, and at the same time, you can join our Saturday show, which is great. For the rest of you, you can join us on Discord. So that'll be on TikTok. Same time, join me on Discord, 11 a.m. Eastern time Saturday. And it'll be the monthly subscribers on YouTube, on Twitch, on Discord, and Ko-fi. Ko-fi's right there. And Discord and YouTube, you can find out. I think there's a $sign at the bottom of the screen by the comments, hopefully. Same thing for you guys. Thank you, Kronos. You get some extra emojis. Your name also turns green, so I know when I look here who are the monthly contributors, like Susan and Carrie and Laka and Chris and Brendy and Chris. I'm sorry, I'm repeating. Anyway, you get it. So I appreciate if you guys can help out. Join us Saturday morning, 11 a.m. Eastern. Ukraine. All right, Ukraine. So let's talk about Ukraine for a while. Ukraine is our regular show, but we're doing Israel especially because that's big news too. Afterwards, I will be doing questions and answers about both topics. So hang out because we're going to go as usual. We're probably going to go for another hour, I would guess. That's our sort of usual time for this. We just started a new fundraiser. So one of the things I like to do, thank you, Jeff, that guy, is have fundraisers to help the situation in Ukraine. We do humanitarian fundraisers. We do fundraisers for the military. This happens to be a fundraiser for the Ukrainian military. We are raising money to help train Ukrainian soldiers on operating drones as part of their drone army. One specific center that is operating the drone training contacted Vlad, my friend Vlad, who those of you who are regulars know Vlad's a longtime friend of mine in Ukraine who coordinates all of our aid. They've contacted us. Thank you, Dr. Prince. They have a very small goal, which I like doing the small goals because it's doable and it gives you something sort of concrete. Thank you, Dr. Prince. We are going to raise $1,971, so it's totally doable, to buy a number of pieces of equipment. Thank you, Dr. Prince, to do the drone training. That would include 2 drones, some motors, some controllers, and a number of pieces of other equipment. Thank you to Dr. Prince and Jeff, that guy. And we are, it's for the drone center where they train these guys. They make the drones, they repair drones, all sorts of things, but they train these people in being experts on the drones. And apparently they're FPV drones, like first person view, which are kind of like the, I guess they're kind of like the 3D, or what do we, I'm already spacing out. What do we call them? You know what I mean? The goggles, like those horrible Oculus. I say horrible because they make me sick, but the Oculus goggles, they're using those kind of almost like a virtual reality drone in essence, first person view. So they're able to actually see what the drone sees and control them much better. In any case, we're raising $1,971. And 100% of the money is going to buy the drone parts, the drone pieces for the training. What I like about these kind of fundraisers we do, we don't take any of the money, which is not, I mean, it's nice. I need money, which is why I ask you guys to do the gifts and stuff. But for these fundraisers, we don't take a dime. 100% will go. So anyway, if you want to help out, the way you do it is we contribute via my friend Vlad himself, because Vlad's the one that's organizing it, via Vlad's PayPal. I will put it here for YouTube, etc. That's Vlad's PayPal. For you guys, you can find Vlad's PayPal, go to my bio and TikTok, click the Linktree link. And when you get there, the very first entry will be about this fundraiser and it'll give you Vlad's info. It's not a link you can click. Thank you, Alexander. It's not a link you can click. Just you'll in essence copy his PayPal info and enter it in your PayPal. Donate to Vlad. Maybe write a quick note if you want that says for training, something like that for the training, and that's sufficient. And there, actually, you don't even need to write anything. Vlad knows what this is for. But if you can help, I'd appreciate it. Hey, Mevili, good to see you. I'm sure I pronounced your name horrifically, but nice to see you. Thank you, Kronos. But if you can help, I'd appreciate it. I'm going to keep doing this fundraiser until we raise the money. I know we'll raise the money because we always do. Thank you, Cheryl. You are lovely. But please help out if you can. We only need a little under $2,000. And I think it's cool. I like these fundraisers, like I said, because they're very personal, sort of a personal connection. We're able to make a difference. So no, they don't, Ukrainian Cash App. They don't have Cash App there. Yep. We're raising money to help do trainings for Ukrainian troops on using drones. Thank you, Marcy. And we're actually helping one specific drone training center that we have contacts with that needs a couple different drones, some controllers and two drones, some controllers and stuff like that. Total they need is $1,971 to help. And 100% of the money will go to the Ukrainians to buy the supplies they need for the drone training center. So there you go. And you can use my friend Vlad's PayPal to donate directly. You'll find it on TikTok via my link in my profile, and you guys have it at the bottom. All right, let me keep going here. Today, oh no, I didn't write it down. I do have it down here. I deleted it. I deleted my what day this is. Terrible. Alexa, how many days has it been since February 24th, 2022? 601 or 602? Well, you know what the problem is? Depending who you ask, it's different. And it kind of drives me a little crazy. So it's either 601 or 602. I'm going to check later. But nonetheless, I always like to start with saying it's 600 and so days since Vladimir Putin's 3-day military operation began. Jim Jordan update. Let me give you a quick update about Jim Jordan. Yesterday was 600. Okay. Oh, today's, I don't even know anymore. Okay. I'll double check. Thank you for the gift there, Kronos. So let's do a quick Jim Jordan update, Speaker of the House update. I mentioned this because this is under the Ukraine area because to get more aid for Ukraine, we need him Speaker of the House, but also we need, Jim Jordan is very anti-Ukraine. He wants to cut all the funding to Ukraine, MAGA, etc. Thank you, Lyndall. New Ko-fi subscription for Lyndall. Thank you for that. I forgot we had the Ko-fi bot connected there. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Volume's going down. Can't tell you what. Is the volume okay on TikTok for everybody else? Just to ask really quick, let me know. But sometimes sometimes the microphone gets kind of evil on TikTok. I don't know why. It's okay. All right. Sorry. Whoever it went bad for, maybe come out and come back in. That might help. The Jim Jordan update. So Jordan is very anti-Ukraine, wants to cut the money. He's in trouble. They had another vote today. He lost. All the other members, a lot of them are telling him to drop out. Basically, the Republicans in the House of Representatives, United States Congress, 2 houses. Senate is sort of the upper house. The lower house is the House of Representatives. House of Representatives lost their leader a couple weeks ago. They're a Republican majority in the House run by the leader is called the Speaker of the House. The person doing it was Kevin McCarthy, and the Republicans held a vote to kick him out because some of the Republicans who are Trump Republicans didn't like him. Well, they've been trying to pick a successor to Kevin McCarthy, and they've been failing because they can't get the votes for it. So they've been without a leader in the House for 2 weeks. And if they can't elect a new leader, they can't do legislation. That means we can't do any money for Israel. We can't do any money for Ukraine. It also means in just a few weeks, like in a month from now, the government runs out of money and we can't pass any more money for the government. The whole government shuts down. So it's a big deal with sort of all of this, what's going on. Where things stand now is Jordan has already lost 2 votes. The second vote, he lost even more than the first. A number of Republicans have come out and said, if you run again, even more of us are going to vote against you. In other words, a lot of us who voted for you are going to say no if there's a third vote. Annette is asking about a third vote today. They were initially saying there would be a third one today. Then they canceled. A lot of members were pressuring Jordan to drop out. Jordan came out maybe 2 hours ago and gave a quick comment and said, I'm not pulling out. So he's staying in the race. He had just met with the 20 or so members who had voted against him. The meeting did not go well. It sounds like it's a disaster, an absolute disaster. He's not leaving. He's not winning. At this point, we don't know what's going on. But I figured I would give you the update because it also does relate to Ukraine as well. And I know it's a topic people are interested in anyway. So kind of a mess. kind of a total mess. Actually, good question, though. See, Song of the Beast is raising a point, which is a troll point. I mean, they're a troll, but they're raising a point that's always worth responding to and saying, you've got money for Ukraine, but you never have money for America's homeless. The problem is, and I always like to point this out, the folks that want to defund Ukraine, who are basically the MAGA right, and again, it's the MAGA leadership, right? Some of you guys might be MAGA and you might support Ukraine, but as far as the MAGA leadership, they do not support Ukraine. Donald Trump does not. Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, none of them. They all want to defund Ukraine. None of them wants to give a dime to the homeless. So when you see people out there that say, we're giving money to Ukraine and not the homeless, they don't want to help the homeless. They will not help the homeless. None of these guys want to spend any of that money. What they want to do is cut the budget. That's all they want to do. They want to cut Social Security. They want to cut Medicare. They want to cut everything. So if you're saying you're against aid to Ukraine because you want to invest more money at home, then you shouldn't be voting for the MAGA guys because they're not going to be investing more money at home. Anyway, just want to bring it up because the troll wanted to bring it up. So don't bring up troll talking points. Don't bring them up. All right. This was kind of a scary update. All right. When I saw some of the aid that Israel was getting from the U.S., I saw something and I thought, that sounds like the stuff we're giving to Ukraine. I didn't look into it and I should have. I was right. Axios reports today that the Pentagon is planning to send Israel tens of thousands of 150 millimeter artillery shells. And I read that the other day and I thought, Ukraine is in dire need of artillery shells. If we're giving them to Israel, where are we getting them from? Because the big concern was, did we even have enough for Ukraine, right? NATO doesn't have enough overall. Well, we're getting them from Ukraine. Listen to this. This is from Axios, which is a very good American political publication. The Pentagon plans to send Israel tens of thousands of 155 millimeter artillery shells that had been destined for Ukraine from U.S. emergency stocks several months ago, 3 Israeli officials tell Axios. The Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli Ministry of Defense told their U.S. counterparts they urgently need artillery shells to prepare for a ground offensive in Gaza. U.S. officials have suggested that diverting the shells from Ukraine to Israel would have no immediate impact on Ukraine's ability to fight against Russian troops. Okay, it might not have an immediate impact because Ukraine isn't running out in 2 weeks, but Ukraine does not have a lot of artillery, shells left, to be honest. That's a little scary. Starting in early 2023, the U.S. began drawing down 155 millimeter artillery shells from its considerable ammunition stockpiles in Israel to send them to Ukraine. Okay, this is where it gets complicated. So we had taken some of the artillery shells from Israel to give them to Ukraine. At the time, the Israeli military told then Prime Minister Yair Lapid and then Minister of Defense Benny Gantz that there was no immediate scenario in which Israel would need the emergency supply of shells. Well, now they need the emergency supply of shells. So kind of a mess across the board. I'd have to hear from more experts on it, but I'm not thrilled. Little bit more on the counteroffensive. Russia. So there was one report today that Russia's offensive in Kupiansk isn't going very well. Now, this is really interesting. Kupiansk is the town in the north. The Russians, God, I hate trying to even keep track of Kupiansk. The Ukrainians, oh my God, this is driving me nuts, guys. The Ukrainians took Kupiansk back and the Russians are trying to get it again. We haven't talked about this in a while. I'm already spacing out. Help me out, Ukrainians. I'm already forgetting. Kupiansk, I think, is still free. I think it's still free. But the Russians are pushing back. The Russians are pushing back hard and trying to take Kupiansk again, okay? What's going on here is the Russians were doing pretty well. They were advancing. It was worrying people. They had poured in a lot of, remember this was the 100,000 or 150,000 troops that the Russians poured into the north? Well, now they're not doing as well. The Russians are starting to lose the Ukrainian control. Thank you. I knew that. I was just starting to space out. The Russians are starting to lose some of the land that they gained in the last couple months. So Kupiansk not going as well for the Russians. That's good news. A couple other updates here. Finnish police have said they've completed their crime scene investigation into the attack on the subsea gas pipeline, the natural gas pipeline connecting Finland to Estonia. They're going to be I guess military is going to be analyzing it now. There may be some other investigations. So it's still not really clear when they're going to have an answer, but just wanted to give a quick update. The German ambassador says there will be no supply of Taurus missiles to Ukraine for now. So even though the U.S. has provided ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, which we've been holding off forever, the Germans are saying they're still not going to give their cruise missiles to the Ukrainians. And honestly, we have no idea why. The Germans, there's this BS talk once again about escalation. Oh my God, the Russians will get mad. And it's like, really? So anyway, the Germans really, I'm telling you, from the beginning of this war, the Germans have gone back and forth from great to horrible, and great. And again, like putting they're, I think, the biggest in Europe, possibly even, that they've given the most aid at this point in Europe. Huge amount of aid they've given, but then they just go and do jerky things like this. I just don't get it. Some more details on the ATACMS attack. So Ukraine used those ATACMS, the new missiles that we finally got to Ukraine. They were old missiles, actually, but we just newly got them to Ukraine. Thank you, McCobb. And they attacked two areas, Berdyansk and Luhansk. Berdyansk, occupied town, Ukrainian town occupied by the Russians here on the coast. Luhansk, Ukrainian town occupied by the Russians in the east. And the Ukrainians did a lot of damage to two Russian military bases. Thank you, Kronos, for the gift. Keep the gifts coming, guys, on TikTok. Thank you. Ukrainians did a lot of damage, which was good news. And we know they knocked out about 9 helicopters. Okay. Well, listen to this. So this was interesting. Thank you, Alex. This is from Jackie and Magical. Thank you, guys, from Yaroslav Trofimov, who is a Wall Street Journal reporter. Very good guy covering Ukraine defense stuff. Thank you, Maurice and Jackie. He says that thank you, Jonathan, 5 Ka-52 attack helicopters and 4 Mi-8 helicopters appear to have been lost by Russia in the attack. Thank you for the gift, Kronos. Now, what's interesting, he notices, and he says, would have been so helpful for Ukraine to have these ATACMS in June when the Ka-52 gunships, the very helicopters that Ukraine destroyed with the ATACMS, when the Ka-52 gunships were destroying advancing columns in Zaporizhia. Thank you, my Melody. Now, what he's talking about is, thank you, Elizabeth, and this, again, is the issue of why I complain about NATO being so slow in getting weapons to Ukraine. Thank you, Derek. Slow in approving the weapons, right? We always play the 6 months, no, like Germany right now. Germany's going to give the cruise missiles at some point. You know they will. But they've got to drag it out until it's too late, until it sets Ukraine back. And it's not just Germany. America's done it repeatedly. Most of the important weapons we've given Ukraine, thank you, Jeff, that guy, and Wendy both. Most of the weapons we've given, we've dragged out way too long until not too late, but pretty late to give them to Ukraine. Well, in this case, had we given Ukraine the ATACMS earlier, they could have perhaps destroyed those helicopters before those helicopters destroyed the Ukrainian troops. One of the big reasons the counteroffensive has not been going well, or going slowly at least, is because Ukrainian troops were getting Ukrainian armor was getting decimated by Russian helicopters. And they were getting decimated. So they had to basically go really slow instead. And guess what? It's been going really slow and it's annoying. Well, guess what? Wouldn't have been as slow had we given the ATACMS earlier. There is always a price to be paid when we dilly-dally and go slow on this stuff. So all of this stuff about Biden being worried about, or the French or the Germans being worried about angering Putin, every time we pulled a punch that we went more slowly in giving Ukraine weapons, we paid a price in the battlefield. I should say the Ukrainians paid a price in the battlefield. And again, let's see if Ukraine can even win this war at this point, because frankly, we dragged it out so slowly that we're putting this war in a position where it could be a tie. And if it is, I fear it's our fault if it is. And that really bothers me, because it didn't have to be. Let's see. I'm not giving in yet, but it didn't have to be this way had we gotten them the weapons early on and we played games the entire freaking time. And it let the Russians dig in, it let the Russians kill the Ukrainians, and we could have basically stopped the Russians a long time ago. It just pisses me off. Anyway, you guys know this. I won't give you the same speech again. Well, but it's not Victor. I mean, are you being ironic? I'm not sure. Victor, who usually asks good questions, makes a comment here that I will say I disagree with. Victor says, I think it would be risky to do so. I'm not sure which you mean do so, given the Russians' repeated threats and warnings. That's the whole point. there is nothing risky about escalating against Russia because for a year and 8 months now, Russia has been threatening again and again and again and again that they'll have nuclear war or whatever they're going to do if we give Ukraine ATACMS, if we give Ukraine tanks, if we give Ukraine F-16s, if the Brits give Ukraine the Storm Shadow, if the French give Ukraine the Scalp. I mean, what else am I missing? Oh, if the Europeans give Ukraine the tanks. Every step of the way, they have been complaining and saying, oh boy, and then every time we give them something, nothing happens. Nothing. The Russians are full of hot air. Thank you, Erica. It is exactly what I predicted it. It doesn't mean I could have been wrong. I happen to have been right. The Russians are bluffing. It is all one big bluff. That's all it is. That's all it is. So I would say quite the opposite. I think the very fact that the Russians have threatened for 1 year and 10 months, or 1 year and 8 months at this point, means their threats mean absolutely nothing. Also, what are they going to do? Bomb Ukraine? Right? They're going to bomb Germany if Germany gives them missiles? No. Germany's a member of NATO. So what are they going to do? I mean, that's the thing. Russia, if Russia could do more, they'd have already done it, is the thing. There's nothing else they could do. All right, a little more tea. Couple more stories here. Actually, this one I'm going to mention to you guys too. I know we're going long on the stories, but I told you it would be long tonight. The Russians have taken another hostage, another American hostage. And honestly, I'm going to be mean here and say, I don't freaking care. I really don't. Leave her. I mean, I really mean this. I couldn't care less at this point. Another American thought it would be smart to go to Russia. And guess what? They took her prisoner. I mean, seriously? She's a woman working for Radio Free Europe. She's Russian-American. She lives in Prague. Her family is in Russia. There was a family emergency. She goes to Russia. What do the Russians do? They arrest her. And they said, oh, you work for Radio Free Europe. You're a propaganda person. You didn't register as a foreign agent. And they arrested her and took her passport. And now she's facing a possible 5 years in prison as a result. You know what that means? Once again, Russia wants us to release some huge terrorist or God knows what in exchange for yet another American who was stupid enough to go to Russia when they're taking, I'm serious, leave her. I don't want to be rude about it, but she knew what she was doing. She wanted to go there. No more hostage release, no more hostage negotiation, right? Paul Whelan, not fair. He deserves to come out. Brittany Griner pissed me off a little bit. Thank you, by the way, for the cauldron hedge. Pissed me off a little bit, but Brittany went, the basketball star, before they were kidnapping people, right? So fair enough. A little stupid of her to go there with war breaking out. Kind of stupid, but they weren't taking hostages. Evan Gershkovich of the Wall Street Journal, you know, he knew what he was getting into. They kidnapped him. Yeah, big surprise, they kidnapped him. They were already kidnapping people. And this woman, even worse, she just went recently. I have no more anything for these people at this point. Thank you, Lori. I really do. It is incredibly stupid for anybody to go to Russia who's an American. And if you go, saya frickin' nara at this point. And I say this because we are going to have to not only compromise our and the world's national security again. Last time for Brittany Griner, we had to let go. Was he called the Merchant of Death? Help me out, guys. Was that his nickname? This guy was an arms merchant, a Russian arms merchant who sold weapons to terrorists. Horrific man, in jail for like 15 years or something. And we released him because Brittany decided to smoke marijuana or whatever the hell she did. Brought her little vape pipe with. And we had to release the Merchant of Death for Brittany, which kind of pisses me off. I get it. Victor Bout. There you go. Victor Bout. Exactly. Pissed me off. But even worse, we have now made clear. And it's funny because Republicans made this point about Iran and they made it as a political point, but it's kind of starting to be true. We have made clear to the world that if you take Americans kidnapped, we will negotiate and we will cave. And sure, I would like to be released if I'm kidnapped, but at the same time, really bad for other Americans because you've made it dangerous for every other American now because the Russians know and everybody else knows that if you kidnap us, we will give you something really good in exchange. So why not kidnap even more of us? Thank you, Lisa. Anyway, like I said, this story really pisses me off. Last little story here. NATO announced it will ramp up patrols of the Black Sea. Thank you, Kronos. After an underwater pipeline connecting Finland to Estonia was damaged. We talked about that the other day or earlier. And basically, yeah, NATO is going to NATO is going to increase patrols around the Baltics overall. So that is a good thing. All right, that is it for the news. Let me look here. I will show you guys a couple of the auction items. We do have a couple still left. Okay, we do have a couple still left. All right, so the auction items that are still left, because what we do is I do auctions to benefit Ukraine and to benefit my work. We do them over at our Discord. They end today. We still got 3, 4, 5 items that will end tonight. So, bye, crazy person. 4 or 5 items that will end tonight in the next couple hours. You can go check out the auctions. It's at discord.aravosis.com. And as I said, 50% of the winning auction bid or whatever will go benefit Ukraine. 50% will go to support me because I do this full time and it helps me pay the bills so I can keep doing it. But a couple of the items we still have up, these are going tonight now. This is a challenge coin, a Russian warship Go F Yourself challenge coin. Challenge coins are these coins made by military folks to basically honor significant achievements, things like that. And this one is the Russian warship Go F Yourself. You can see the Moskva in the background, the Ukrainian soldier giving the boat the finger. This is there you can see, this is the Russian ship that the first day of the war threatened the Ukrainian sailors that were on, that were on Snake Island in Ukraine and told them, give yourselves up. And they said, this is the Russian warship, give yourselves up or we're going to kill you. And the Ukrainian sailors said, Russian warship, go F yourself, right? Super famous. That's what the coin, but the coin is also commemorating that 6 weeks later, the Ukrainians built their own cruise missile called the Neptune and they sunk the Russian ship. Within 6 weeks, they got their revenge. So that's what the coin is commemorating. Very nice pisanka. No, not pisanka. Oh, I'm going to forget what it's called again. Is it pisanka? This is pisanka, I think. The pisanka egg. These are the Ukrainian Easter eggs they make that are made with the batik, with the wax. And then for each color, they dip and they take off a little wax and then dip again. So each color is done by dipping slowly, slowly, slowly. This is a chicken egg, pisanka, exactly. This is a chicken egg, holes in the top and the bottom, but very pretty from Ukraine. So we're auctioning that off. I've got a nice box for it, so hopefully I will not destroy it. 2 other things. Let me look here. I think I've got just the 2 others, or is there 3? Ukrainian cookbook. Oh, killing it. Yeah. So 3 other things. A very cool Ukrainian cookbook, a popular cookbook in Ukraine. It's in Ukrainian, but it's really easy. I use my Google Translate and it translates it super simple. What's nice is the recipes are very simple. It's recipe on one page, beautiful picture on the other. Very easy. I like also that there are, that the pictures are there. As I said, there's a picture of vareniki. Vareniki are my favorite. These are like the Ukrainian dumplings. But it's neat. Like I said, the recipes are totally translatable. It's really cool. Auctioning this. 2 more things. The piece, which actually I don't want Mustard to get mad at me. Going for a steal. Mustard's the high bidder. This is a piece of a Russian Su-34 fighter bomber that was shot down over Ukraine on March 2nd, 2022. It was shot down over the Ukrainian town of Chernihiv. The pilot escaped. The navigator died. The pilot parachuted down, got captured. We've got pictures of the pilot captured. We've got video of the plane being shot down and crashing. I mean, it's really cool, the history of this piece. This is neat. These are not commercials. We're raising money for Ukraine, George. So suck it up, buddy. Suck it up. This is a really cool piece. This is the inside of the plane. This is the outside of the plane. Anyway, I love this stuff. I think it's very cool. That's for auction. And then the final thing we are auctioning off tonight on the Discord is a Ukrainian camouflage net, Ukrainian military camouflage net. We've been raising money for these. We've been raising money to make these nets. And the folks making the nets for us and for the military made us a few of the nets for ourselves that we could auction them off. So these are the actual nets. These are the actual material made on the actual looms. And they simply made us a smaller version because the large version is 27 feet by 15 feet. And I thought that might be a little large. So this one is more like 8 feet by 2 feet, which is almost 3 meters, maybe a little less than 3 meters by 2/3 of a meter, basically. So check it out. They're very cool. The nets are always very popular. But go check it out. As I said, the ornaments, everything's already, the ornament already sold. Shanlin. Yep. The horse ornament just sold. So sorry, but I've got more ornaments I'll put up next week probably. So fret not. But that's it. And then tomorrow I'll put up new things for tomorrow for the next week's auction. All right, let's do our Q&A. Deb, yep, there you go. Oh, $70. Hey, thank you I appreciate that. Remember, your money's going for a good cause. The egg is cool. They do a beautiful job on the eggs. Beautiful job. Thank you, Kronos. And Jonathan, I agree with you. Americans were warned for several months not to go to Russia. Wait, what was wrong with that quote? Guys, Jonathan's thing was, don't get mad at Jonathan. Poppy. his comment was fine. I mean, he's doing caps, but just, tell him not to. But his was fine, wasn't it? That comment was fine, Poppy. I'd say bring him back unless there was something he did that I didn't see. But his comment was right. I think am I missing something? Yeah, I think bring him back. I don't think it was all caps. Yeah. But let him know it was a mistake. It was all caps, but just let him know not to do all caps. The comment was fine. He clearly was somebody who didn't realize don't do all caps. I am not a Canadian. I'm American. Why do I seem so nice that I seem Canadian? No, we don't like all caps. Why don't we like all caps? Somebody asked. Good question. There's two problems with all caps. We don't like all caps because in internet terms, all caps is yelling. It's considered rude. Also, sometimes the moderators use all caps to try to get my attention. So we try not to have anybody else do all caps so it doesn't get in the way. Honestly, I don't really care about all caps as long as it's not all the time. Nice like a Canadian. I try. I doubt I'm nice, but I'm not calm like a Canadian. That's the thing. I'm not calm. The Canadians I've met very often have I'm Greek, exactly, have a calmness to them that as a Greek I do not have. as a Chicagoan I do not have. But thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. The UN thing is very hard. I don't know, T. I did a video last night and I realized I was responding to something else and I took the video down because the US opposed Russia calling for a ceasefire. Okay. And that was a different thing. We don't want a ceasefire because the ceasefire only benefits, oh, hey, Monica, the ceasefire only benefits the Russians. It doesn't benefit the Ukrainians. It benefits the Russians. It benefits Hamas. It benefits the Palestinians, sure, but it doesn't benefit Israel. Forget Ukraine, Israel. The other thing, and I'm not really up on what the rest of this was, there was the UN Security Council passing a resolution dealing with humanitarian aid and some other stuff, and the U.S. vetoed it, even though the U.S. initially looked like we were going to support it. That's okay, Anwar. Just try not to do it because it's just people find it rude after a while. That's the thing. But the U.S. wasn't going to oppose it, and then we opposed it, and we said something like it didn't include a mention of Israel's right to defend itself. There's some kind of politics going on, and I don't know what. I just don't know so like I said, it was a Security Council resolution of the UN that we vetoed yesterday, and it's just not clear. Some kind of politics, I'm just not clear what it was. So there you go. What else we got, guys? Ask away with the questions. What do I think Biden's going to say during his Oval Office speech? I hope he's going to make a bigger pitch for, Susan, a bigger pitch for why America needs to be involved in the world, why we shouldn't be turning inward and assuming that the world can just live without us and things won't go to hell in a handbasket. That's what I hope he does, because it's not only important about the Middle East, it's not only important about Europe and Russia, it's important about China and Taiwan. It's important in general. And isolationism is not just dangerous, but also as Americans, why does it matter? It's not just, the world will go to hell and we should help the world. I think a lot of Americans don't understand that. They're like, well, so what if the world goes to hell? Life is fine here. I don't care, right? Europe or the Middle East, let them kill each other, right? I mean, if you're domestic American, actually not even American, anybody in general, right? A lot of your citizens are going to say, why the hell should I care what happens abroad, right? I might as well, stay home. He needs to explain to people why what happens abroad affects America's national security. So I hope that's what he's going to do. Secondly, he needs to get a damn good explanation of why we're in Ukraine, because I don't think he's given. I think there is one. I don't think he's given it. So, Susan asked, protesters on the Capitol, hundreds arrested. Yeah, there was a sort of a liberal Jewish group protesting on Capitol Hill today. They went into the House, I think, or maybe into the rotunda. They may have gone into the Congress as well. Now, they didn't storm the Capitol. They went through security. They did everything they were supposed to. And then when they got inside, they sat down, chanted, and got arrested. That's about it. A couple hundred liberal Jews. Not sure what else to say, but that's what happened. Yeah. But again, they didn't storm. They didn't storm. They didn't throw things. They didn't break things. And they didn't have any Confederate flags. So, I think the protest was today, Greg. I'm pretty sure. I saw everyone talking about it today. Pretty sure it was today. Thank you, Carla. I may be wrong, but I think it was. Thank you. Oh, Carla's twofer on Carla. Thank you for that. Well, they walked in, but they walked in through security is the point. Yeah. They went in. They didn't storm and break through the windows. They went through security. They did what they're supposed to. Protest was yesterday. Okay. All right. Folks were saying it was yesterday. All right. Are we safe from what's going on in Israel? Well, depends where you live. Not if you live in Jordan or Lebanon. No, I mean, we're safe here. The only thing is there will be more terrorism around the world. Yes, there will be. Thank you, Carla. And the U.S. is, I think, going to get sucked into it. Well, or Palestine or a lot of places. Yeah. The U.S. is going to get sucked more into it. We don't have a choice. And we may end up having to have troops on the ground, at least in Israel. I mean, it's messy. It's messy. I mean, this potentially is shaping up to be a big Middle Eastern war. We'll see. I don't think Jordan's trying to steal the speakership. He was trying to browbeat it into people, which backfired out. We can talk about that in a second. Huge protest in Chicago. Don't know, Annette. I don't know. I didn't see anything about it though. I thought it was today. I still think it was today. I know you guys say yesterday. All the news on it was today that I saw. I think it was today, but let's see. I don't think it was yesterday. Is Slovakia still supporting Ukraine? Not right now. They're not. They froze all aid pending the new government being formed, and then the new government will decide what they're doing. So who knows? That's true. Maybe they did have another one today. That's possible. That's true. They could have done one yesterday and then done another one today. That's a good point. That's entirely possible that's why people are thinking there was one yesterday as well. You're right. There may have literally been two. Oops, sorry, I'm looking for, where is this? Looking for my chapstick. Oh, well, I will find it later. Chapstick. Oh, well. Find me chapstick later. It's fine. What else we got, guys? Oops, sorry. Oops. Destroyer was fired on. Yep, I started off talking about that. Poland is definitely still supporting Ukraine, and the elections in Poland were very good, very beneficial for Ukraine. So that was great news. Slovakia's elections finished. Yep. And the new government is just being formed. They were just doling out ministries and stuff. The bad guys got the Ministry of Defense and those things, which is a little scary, but we'll see. President Biden's address to the nation tonight is 8:00 Eastern time US. So that is in 1 hour from now. And I will be watching it. I've just got to decide if I go live again or not, just because, I don't like going, I mean, it's, it gets tiring. And when I don't know if I've got any more videos to do on TikTok tonight. I may or may. Well, at the very least, I'm going to do a TikTok video about Biden's speech. I will be doing that tonight. Beep, 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 beep. I didn't see what you said, Victor, what your or no is referring to. Oh, here you think. Do you think Biden's leadership is a factor for the amount of wars and conflicts that have sparked since his term started? No. All seem much more tranquil under Trump. Yeah, but so what? That's all about Putin wanting to invade. I mean, Putin, for whatever reason, honestly, I think Putin was waiting until his military was built up to the point he felt comfortable. I'm surprised Putin didn't go in. Honestly, I think it would have been smarter for Putin to invade under Trump. There was much less of a chance of Trump doing what Biden's done as far as beefing up Ukraine, calling an international coalition together. Trump would have never called an international coalition together to defend Ukraine, right? Trump, not a big fan of Trump wanted to pull us out of NATO. I think Putin screwed up, to be honest. He should have invaded under Trump. Hamas did not blow up Israel because Joe Biden's president instead of Trump. You know what I mean? I just don't accept it. I don't accept that. I just don't. Also, well, yeah, in any case, no, I don't think so. This is my take, but I don't think so. Could Palestine be given a part of Russia? I'd be fine with that. I'd be totally fine with that. I don't know. Let's see, Ben. Let's see. I've got to see. Do I think Iraq will get involved? I mean, not Iraq per se. I mean, there's already some groups in Iraq that attacked a U.S. Military base. So that's sort of the problem, is kind of the crazy militants with ties to Iran are a concern anywhere, because Iran, I think, is going to want to unleash hell on us and the Israelis without doing it directly themselves. Could Palestine take over Israel? I mean, no. The question is, and this is going to be more for somebody who's way more of a defense type than me, is there is certainly concern about Hamas in the north because they've got a lot of men and a lot of good equipment. And there's concern about what happens when they invade, if they invade from the north, right? I don't know how. I just keep reading there's concern. I don't know whether there's concern, but in the end, Israel can beat them back or whatever. That's the first question, right? That's the first one. The second question is, would Syria do anything stupid and try to enter the war? Would Iran try to, I don't know, lob missiles or whatever else Iran could do, right? Oh, and by the way, it's me. I answered that earlier. I was responding to the wrong question. I got rid of the video because I did somebody asked the question about the humanitarian vote, and I answered it because last night I thought you guys were asking about the Russian proposal for a ceasefire that the U.S. Voted against or stopped or whatever. I didn't realize you were talking about the humanitarian, a different vote. So my answer I gave was to the ceasefire, not the humanitarian thing. So I pulled it because I sat there and I went, wait a minute, this is a different issue, and it was a totally wrong issue. So I pulled it because I wasn't answering I was talking about one thing, you guys were talking about another. So I pulled it. Thanks, Monica. We do need a speaker not to declare war. No, because the Senate declares war. Now, first of all, the U.S. hasn't declared war in a very long time. So we don't even need to declare war, really. I mean, we don't. But you do need a speaker if the Congress is going to pass legislation providing military aid to Ukraine, providing military aid to Israel, stuff like that, right? No problem, TJ. Thank you. Right? But we wouldn't have to declare war anyway, and we wouldn't. What else we got? Yeah, that's a good point from Kelly. The pandemic slowed things down. That's a good point. Yeah. Because you know what? Actually, I remember last year, even when Putin invaded Ukraine, we're talking February of 2022, I remember wondering and trying to get information, and I couldn't find any, on what was going on with COVID in Ukraine and whether COVID was, spreading amongst the Ukrainians, spreading amongst Ukrainian troops, spreading amongst Russian troops. So COVID was still very much on our minds at the beginning of last year when they invaded, which means before that, COVID would have been even more on the minds of the Russians, saying, if we invade, are we going to have all of our troops together and everyone's going to get sick? Right? So that, I didn't even think of that. You're right. That could have been another reason. Do we need a speaker to fund a war? Yes. If more funding is needed, yes. Right? Any money that's already been appropriated or authorized, anyway, any money that Congress has already provided has been provided. So Congress doesn't need to do it, right? The money's already there. If we need additional money to fund the war or to fund whatever we do with Israel, the Congress will need to pass it, and we need a speaker, because right now the House of Representatives can't do anything except pick a new speaker. The guy who's in charge right now doesn't have the power. Now, one of the options, I didn't mention this earlier, one of the options being considered is that Republicans take the guy that's now there, Patrick McHenry, who's the acting speaker, who right now in the House only has the power to call them up and have a vote to pick a speaker. He doesn't have the power to call up legislation or anything. The idea they're batting around is, do they give him the power for the next month or so, or maybe even 2 months, to at least pass a budget, because they need to keep the government open, because the government will close in a month if they don't pass something, to provide money for Israel, this kind of stuff. But some of the Republicans don't want that. So it's even chaos on that front. And In order to do it, they might need the Democrats. But to get the Democrats want something. Because why would the Democrats vote for a Republican speaker? I mean, nobody votes for a speaker of the other party ever. Republicans, because you have to have a vote, and whoever gets the most, right, they get, that's how it works. Well, Democrats are never going to vote for a Republican speaker. Republicans are never going to vote for a Democratic speaker. That's just not the way it works. But in order to keep McHenry there and give him greater powers that lets him pass some legislation, they might need Democratic help. But the Democrats are negotiating at least. We'll see. Are wars funded by the government? Again, it depends. Only if additional money is needed. The money the Pentagon has right now, the Pentagon can use. The troops it has, the missiles, the Pentagon already has the missiles it has. So it doesn't need extra money for that. It just depends whether, if there were a war or whether Israel goes to war. For example, Israel wants more artillery shells. Israel wants us to give them more of the, the rockets or whatever, or the missiles that shoot out of the Iron Dome. If we don't have anything handy, we would need Congress. Well, actually, we would need Congress if it's a military sale. We would need that anyway. Anyway, it just depends. If we've got stuff handy, we could potentially do it without Congress. If we need new stuff, Congress has to agree to it. It's complicated. It certainly helps if there's Congress. Yes, if there is. So they're going to need to. And the Israel thing is a lot of pressure because that's bad for the Republicans because Americans tend to support Israel. So Americans will not like it that this chaos is making it harder for us to support Israel. So, well, and again, Greg, keep in mind, it's not even like several Republicans voted with Democrats. The Republicans needed a certain number of Republican votes to keep McCarthy a speaker, and enough Republicans defected. That's what it was. Because Democrats never vote for a Republican speaker and Republicans never vote for a Democratic speaker, Anyway, all wars are caused by politics. I guess in a sense, depending how you define politics, What else we got, guys? North Korean ammo in Russia. No news other than Lavrov, the Russian foreign minister, is in North Korea today, met with Kim, the crazy leader. So, not great, but they're clearly getting weapons and whatever they're getting, ammunition from the North Koreans. We know they are, deep. Anything else, guys? No, I don't. You'd have to ask an Israeli there. Blue Keys asked an interesting question. Would you say the Israeli people have the same mindset as Netanyahu, or what percentage? First of all, it would depend how you defined the mindset of Netanyahu. My case, I'm not a big fan of the Israeli prime minister. I've said before, I think he's a warmonger. I think he's somebody who just kind of always thinks war is the answer. I don't think he wants peace. I don't think he ever wants peace. I would want to see some Israelis weighing in, because I would say, Gilad, what do you think? I mean, do most Israelis agree with Netanyahu? Although it kind of depends, Ayala as well. It kind of depends what we mean by agree with Netanyahu, though, I would think, right? I think what that person means is he's kind of war, and doesn't seem very interested in peace. Always. Is that most Israelis, or is he more to the right of most Israelis? Would be my question. Yeah, some folks are saying I just like Netanyahu and I'm Israeli. Socially and religiously, most don't agree. Well, and Netanyahu has been basically sucking up to sort of Israel's far right, to Israel's version of the religious right. Ultra liberals protesting for Ukraine but not Palestinians, ultra conservatives. As an Israeli, we really don't want him to stay definitely after 7/10. Well, that's the thing, after October 7th. Well, that's the other thing. The polls show, actually, I should have said this because I know this. The polls show people are not happy with Netanyahu and they want him to go because, he became prime minister. I mean, Netanyahu is the defense hawk. He's the great military guy, right? That's why he would get elected. That's his one trick. And Israel got attacked. He didn't see it coming. He should have seen it coming. They should have had they should have seen it coming from an intelligence perspective, and B, why the border wasn't better protected. Why weren't the military bases better? That strikes me as crazy as an American. How the hell could they get into Israeli military bases, right? I mean, that's insane that they weren't better protected. So I think Israelis are not happy with him about all of that. But no, whenever I've talked, granted, I haven't been to Israel. I've wanted to go, but when I talk to Israelis, I don't usually meet Israelis that are as conservative as Netanyahu. I usually meet Israelis who are much more in the middle, who are sympathetic to the Palestinians. They're obviously not sympathetic to the terrorism, but they're sympathetic to the Palestinians. Those are the ones I tend to meet. I don't meet the far left a lot, although I have far left Jewish friends here in the States who are very, I would say, pro-Palestinian in a way, But no, I think Israel is very diverse in many ways. At least that's always been my impression on sort of the issue of peace and all of that. I think it's very diverse. No, I really do. I think it's, well, maybe I did sum it up well. No, but I really think, I think you've got the peaceniks, you've got the warniks, thank you, Charles, and a lot of folks in between. But you do have some crazies, just like we've got our religious right. They've got their religious crazies in Israel too. And from what I've heard, the religious crazies are a little crazy. I mean, they're not very democratic, I mean, as an American and as somebody who isn't a religious crazy, it scares me a little, Yeah, but they've got some power there. And Netanyahu gave them more power in the cabinet. Thank you, Elizabeth. So that's scary too. Thank you, Happy Beach. I always love the postcard. I always like because it shows a different postcard in the end, which is kind of fun. Yeah, I mean, Greg is saying, I don't understand how their border or their watchtowers weren't better protected. Now, the watchtowers, they use drones to bomb the watchtowers. I was watching the drone video, which is why the Ukrainians said it looks like the Palestinians that Hamas got training by the Russians because they really knew what they were doing with the drones, right? No, the whole thing makes no sense. I mean, again, how do you get into an Israeli military base? That's insane. It's insane. Well, there's a whole other question. Kronos is saying Israel was very diverse before October 7th. October 7th meaning the attacks 2 weeks ago, right? The terrorist attacks. That's the problem is you have a shock and a crisis like that, and all of a sudden people say, we've got to defend ourselves. We've got to defend the country. So people become much more dogmatic, much more. I mean, we did it here. And Biden actually warned the Israelis when he was there. And he said, be careful and don't do what we did, where we got so angry that we weren't very smart in the wars we picked and how we executed them. Right. But having said that, politically, you almost don't have a choice. Politically, I don't think the Israelis have a choice but to go after Hamas and try to destroy them. I don't think there is after what happened. And that's the problem, though, because if they go after them, not only will a lot of civilians be killed, but it's going to be very difficult for Israel to basically pacify Gaza. So it's difficult. Who's currently winning in Ukraine? It feels it. I will say this: I worry that we're heading towards a stalemate. I worry. I worry that Ukraine is moving slowly forward. Russia's moving slowly backwards, but it's going too slow, which means it'll take a long time. And that worries me. But that's kind of the way I feel about it. The Russians control 17% of Ukraine. That's not good. Having said that, the Russians aren't able to move forward, which is bad for the Russians because they can't get out. They can't get out either. I mean, the Russians can't really end the war because the Ukrainians are going to keep fighting. So, but it feels to me like it's slowed down a little much for my taste, which scares me. But, let's see, Correct. The Russians controlled like 35% at one point. That's true. And the Ukrainians took half of it back, which was amazing, so that's great. But I'm saying like right now, it's going a little slow for my comfort, which I don't like. But again, if the Russians were winning, they'd be getting more land and they're not. Winter's coming. Let's see what happens. And yes, the Ukrainians are going to keep fighting anyway, and that's not good for Russia. So yeah, well, it's not over. That's for sure. That's for sure. What else, guys? What else? Yes, I did see that, Keps, about the meeting in Hungary. Yep. Yep. Actually, Kupiansk, it looks like the Russians are losing some towns that they captured in Kupiansk in the north. I mentioned that earlier today. And the Ukrainians have made some advances right south of the Dnipro River. Sky News covered it today as well. The news we heard yesterday looks like it's true that the Ukrainians are making some advances along the southern part of the river, which freaks the Russians out because it gives them a whole other area to worry about, which is great. Ben Madsen, thank you for the question, Ben. Possible Netanyahu ignored signs because he wanted the fight, or is that too tinfoil hat? I mean, basically saying that, how could Israeli intelligence not have seen this coming? I think the thing that would make it difficult if it's a conspiracy theory is, it's not like Netanyahu is the person taking in the raw intelligence. Like he's got the satellite download and he gets the photos and develops them. You know what I mean? This is going through Israeli intelligence. And if Israeli intelligence and Israeli military and all these guys are seeing this evidence of Hamas preparing an attack, Netanyahu wouldn't be the only person to know it. Other people would know it too. I don't know how you hide that, and let's face it, you don't know how, even if you wanted to let it happen for whatever, I don't know. I think it's probably too much of a conspiracy theory. I think so. Yeah. There was no insurrection at the Capitol. Some people at the U.S. Capitol today came in. They went through the security like nice people. They didn't break through the windows. They didn't throw things around. They sat down and held a protest, and they got arrested peacefully. They peacefully protested, which is what people are supposed to do. They didn't try to stop Congress from functioning, which is a felony and a crime, which is why a lot of those folks are going to jail with the insurrection. So it was not an insurrection. Insurrection is when you violently try to overthrow the government, not when you sit down and hold hands and sing, all we are waiting is for peace, or give peace a chance, or whatever. So might want to do your history. Anyway, Greg says, I think it's more likely Netanyahu let his ego get the best of him. I think so. I think it was. But also some people think, what is it, Brian? Some people think that Netanyahu was so busy worrying about his own problems, right? That he didn't even pay attention because he worried about his own legal problems, worried about the Supreme Court battle. He's had this big political problem, and that he just wasn't paying attention to security like he should, Well, yeah, Wilson mentions hiding W&D in Iraq. I mean, well, that's the thing. I mean, it is not a bad point. I mean, as Wilson notes, you can lie your way into a war. You can lie your way into war. George Bush lied his way into the second Iraq war, right? The bad one, the one that he lied. He did. They lied about Iraq's weapons of mass destruction, and they tricked us all. I mean, so you can, yeah, Why is U.S. against a ceasefire? Because it helps Hamas and not Israel. The thing you've got to remember is, I see a lot of people talking. I saw Sky News. One of their guys on Sky News was arguing this today. Like, Israel should be for a ceasefire because then they can negotiate the hostages and everything. What they're forgetting is this isn't just about hostages. This is about far more than hostages. Hamas attacked Israel. This is like September 11th on steroids for the Israelis, okay? This is not, well, you attacked my country, let's have a ceasefire, right? This is, you attacked my country and caused the greatest amount of deaths of Jews since the Holocaust. Israelis see this as an existential fight, as an existential attack, that if they don't defeat Hamas, Hamas is going to basically defeat them and destroy their country and certainly kill more of their citizens. If that's the case, you don't have a ceasefire before Israel is even struck back, right? It's not, and people are saying, whoa, you can negotiate the hostages. The hostages are nice, but Hamas gets to take the hostages. And by the way, negotiating for the hostages means Hamas would get something in exchange for the hostages. So A, Hamas gets to kill tons of Israelis. B, they get to take tons of Israeli hostages. And C, let's have a ceasefire and give Hamas even more prisoners, more terrorists out of prison in exchange for the hostages. So Hamas gets even more. What does Israel get? Their hostages back? I mean, what about all the Israelis that were murdered? What about justice? B, how are we stopping Hamas from attacking Israel again? What will stop Hamas from getting 10,000 prisoners released from Israeli prisons and then in a year from now attacking Israel again, right? They will. I mean, this is the same problem with Ukraine. We talk about a ceasefire in Ukraine and how a ceasefire would simply help the Russians at this point. It would help the Russians dig in. It would help the Russians build up their military for later, right? So that's the problem, is a ceasefire. I mean, and again, I don't even think there's room for disagreement here. I think it is difficult to argue how a ceasefire benefits Israel. That's the problem. The only way you have a ceasefire is if both sides agree it's in their interest to have a ceasefire, right? And I think Hamas might want one. The Palestinian people certainly want one, understandably. But the Israelis, I don't see why they would want one. You know? Yes, Paprika, I'm not shaving because I cut my face falling the other day. And if I shave, it's gonna hurt like hell because it's still a nice scab. So that's why tomorrow I may have to shave and give it a try, but I'm a little nervous. That's why I've got this going. Somebody was asking why I'm growing a mustache. Yeah. It was a bad fall. So anyway, thank you, Kronos, for the sunglasses, and Marsha for the rose. Beep, 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 beep. What else, guys? No, there was some idiot construction people left something in the middle of the sidewalk that was a hazard, and I tripped over. It was bad. I mean, I fell flat on my face. It was terrible. But fortunately, I didn't break a nose, but it was bad. I haven't fallen like that since I was a kid. Natalie, thank you for the super chat question. Do you fear the world is more anti-Semitic, that they support Palestinians, even though the country or Hamas are passive, not progressive? Look, it is a very complicated issue. Part of the opposition to Israel is anti-Semitism, absolutely positively. Absolutely positive. I was not on the phone, actually, no. It's absolutely positively anti-Semitism. Part of it is people legitimately don't like Israel. Israel can be heavy-handed, blah, blah, blah. Part of the defense of the Palestinians is the Palestinians do live in horrible conditions, right? I think I read today there's 15 million Palestinians in the world, and I think 40% of them live in camps. I mean, it's pretty horrible, So I appreciate that too. But I do think a lot of the criticism of Israel is from people who claim to be human rights advocates, but they don't seem to care about human rights when it's Israelis getting blown up or Jews getting blown up. Having said that, I will say this too, though. A lot of us will criticize the Arabs, the Palestinians, whoever, for terrorist attacks against Israeli civilians, but we probably don't complain enough if the Israelis end up killing Palestinian civilians. Now, it's different, and I've argued this before. If you intentionally kill civilians, it's a lot different than accidentally killing civilians. Huge difference. But a lot of Palestinians are suffering too. So I think it's a combination. I do think there's a massive amount of anti-Semitism against Israel. Yes. And I see it in a lot of the people who are anti-Israel. Yes. But there absolutely are good reasons to feel sorry for the Palestinians, of course, and to sympathize with them. Yeah. So I could absolutely, thank you, Brian. What I mean is I absolutely see why somebody genuinely would side with the Palestinians and not because they're an anti-Semite. That's what I mean. I absolutely could see that. So, but it's a mix. I know, but Joshua, that's just too simple. I'm with you, but that's, that's a college debate. You know what I mean? I hear you, but yeah, we all know what we're saying here. Do I think Egypt will take Palestinians? Not a chance in hell. Egypt and Jordan are refusing to take any Palestinian refugees, which, has caused consternation from others. As I've said before, the Arab states, they talk a good talk when it comes to the Palestinians. They love to rally their people when it comes to the Palestinians and get them protesting and everything. Sisi in Egypt called for a national day of protest, and because they're not allowed to protest in Egypt, you go to jail, military dictatorship, quasi. And gave permission for everyone to protest against the Israelis like tomorrow or something. But that's about it. The Arab leaders tend to like the Palestinians when they want to rally people at home. They don't like the Palestinians when it comes to actually helping the Palestinians. The Arab states had a chance. Egypt and Jordan, I think was it, had a chance to create a Palestinian state. After the UN, they invaded all of that. They got some of the territory. They could have created a Palestinian state in the mid 1900s. They didn't, because they didn't want to. They didn't want to. It's not just them. It's not just them, but this was something I remember studying this in graduate school. The Arab countries couldn't care less about the Palestinians. But their people care, so they've got to be careful, because if the people care, you got to pretend you care. It's really shitty. It's really shitty. I mean, in the end, I think it has to be a two-state solution. It's not a one-state solution. That's just crazy. But it's got to be some kind of two-state solution. The problem is you can't be a two-state solution if you've got terrorists running your state. What do you do? Because you're going to have like the Hamas problem again, right? You're going to have an independent state, and then terrorists are going to take over. The terrorists are going to attack Israel, and Israel's going to have to respond. And then it starts all over again. Israel invades, Israel takes territory. It's the same battle. I mean, you're going to have, you almost would have to have, I've said this the other day, other Arab countries or something. Thank you, Wilson. The nuance. I'm always here for the nuance. I don't know whether Arab states can do it or something, but you'd have to do something that somehow sort of protects the democracy. Well, here's the problem. You're going to have Arab states that aren't democracies protect the democracy in the Palestinian states, right? I mean, right? Like, what are they going to do? You think Sisi in Egypt is going to take a stand for democracy in Palestine? I don't think so. It's just, like I said, this issue sucks. The issue just sucks. It's very hard to see anything ever positively coming out of this, or any positive coming out of this. Anyway. It makes me sad. Israel's more of a democracy than everybody in the region. That's for sure. Way more than anybody else in the region. I mean, Israel is a democracy anyway. They may be an imperfect democracy, but compared to anybody in the region, come on. I mean, Jordan's run by a king. I like Abdullah. I went to school with him, but he's a freaking king. Sisi won in a coup. The president of Egypt is a military general who did a coup. Now, he did a coup against some really bad people. Fair enough. But I mean, don't even begin to compare Israel's democracy to the region. Assad, the son of the former Assad, the family that's been dictators of Syria for 50 years, 60, right? I mean, it's been a joke. So don't even. All right. I was going to say Lebanon. I was wondering about Lebanon. Milos was saying Lebanon's kind of a democracy. I was wondering about that. Yeah. I mean, Lebanon sadly is a failed democracy, right? I mean, the government again, way beyond my pay grade, Lebanon, all the details there, but it seems like the government is weak and you've got the terrorists controlling the South. I mean, Lebanon is just very sad, very sad. I don't know the details of the Palestinians in Israel as far as voting and everything else. Any of the Israelis here, can Palestinian Israelis vote? I assume they can. Can't they? I've not been to Israel. I've been wanting to go for a very long time. Palestinian Israelis? No, but the Palestinian Israelis, though, the Palestinian Israelis can. Yeah, that's what I say. Arab Israelis can vote. Yeah, Arab Israelis can, but they've got to be Arab Israelis. They're not like refugees in the West Bank or something, right? Right. Some people are saying no. Okay, I'm now seeing a contradiction here. Which one is it, guys? Somebody saying Palestinian people can't vote in Israel, but they do have people that are... No, because, for example, I know they've got members in the Knesset, right? How did they get there? I know they're represented in the Knesset. Are they not represented just through normal votes? All right, seeing a big disagreement here, folks. Maybe we'll have to look at it afterwards. If you have a passport and an ID, Arab Israelis can vote. Palestinians can't, Arab Israelis can. Well, a Palestinian, if you're an Israeli, you can, right? If you're a Palestinian Israeli, you can vote, I'm assuming, is what the issue is, right? You have to become an Israeli citizen or be an Israeli citizen or whatever it is, right? Not a refugee or whatever else. Yeah, Daniel's saying Arab Israelis can vote. There you go. What Eden said depends if they're a civil. If depends if they're considered a civilian or not. Yeah. Not civilian. A civilian. You mean a citizen, is what you mean. A citizen. Yeah. Well, I know they got members of the Knesset. That always kind of blew my mind. You know, that always surprised me. All right. All right, guys, let me do a quick summary of the news and then we'll call it quits. As always, we went late again, but that's okay. I know there's been a lot of news. I can always tell when I've got 6 pages of notes, I can tell it's going to be a long show because it goes long. And what do you do? You know, I did not see an interview with Piers Morgan. Didn't see it. Don't know about it. That's on like with British stuff. So, you know, I only see it if it goes flying around the inner tubes, but I think he's on some British TV thing now, isn't he? So that like, I never hear anything about Piers Morgan here in the States, actually. So, you know, so there. All right. Thank you, Crazy American. All right, guys, let me do a quick summary and then we'll go. All right. Quick summary. I always like to sort of end the show by doing a quick list of the topics we covered. Hang on here. Here we go. I will try to do a quick. Yeah, he's got his own his own UK channel. That's funny. Okay. All right, Coffee Talk on Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, remember, 10 a.m. Eastern Time U.S. Wrong. 11 a.m. Eastern Time U.S. I will be doing a special show Saturday morning for the TikTok subscribers on TikTok, the monthly subscribers, and for the monthly subscribers, they'll be all on Discord, but it'll be the YouTube, Twitch, Discord, Ko-fi. All the monthly subscribers for all those services, join us on Discord, 11 a.m. Saturday. I will set up a event on Saturday, so it'll be obvious where to find it. Israel's defense minister says they will soon be inside Gaza. Thank you, Kronos. Biden, that's right. We're 25 minutes away from Biden. Biden will be giving an Oval Office address at 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern Time U.S. That's in 20 minutes. So make sure to put on your TVs and check that. He'll be talking about Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. I may or may not come back on to talk about it. Let's see. Associated Press, Hamas is likely using Northern Korean arms in the attack on Israel they did 2 weeks ago. The State Department issued a worldwide warning to Americans to be careful because of obviously upticks in terrorism, etc. Then we talked about Ukraine. We're doing a drone fundraiser. Remember that? We're raising money to get drones and supplies to help a Ukrainian military training program to train people how to operate, military folks how to operate drones. We need $1,971. If you want to help, you can. I will put it on the screen for you guys on TikTok, on YouTube. You can donate via my friend Vlad Naprakovsky via PayPal. You guys can donate to Vlad. Go to my profile on TikTok, click the Linktree link, and you'll see the very top thing will give you Vlad's PayPal info. Copy it down, go to your PayPal. And you don't have to add a note at all. If you want to add a note, say for training, don't add a note. I'd say it makes it confusing adding a note. Just don't. So that's for that. Jim Jordan update. I said we still do not have a Speaker of the House. It's kind of a mess. The guy that's anti-Ukraine lost his votes again today. Doesn't seem like he's going to be doing very well, so we'll see. The Pentagon plans to send Israel tens of thousands of artillery shells that were destined for Ukraine. Scary. Russia's offensive in Kupiansk in the northeast looks like it's losing steam. That's good news. Finnish police have said they've completed their crime scene investigation of the gas pipeline that was seemingly attacked, we think by the Russians, but who knows, between Finland and Estonia. The German ambassador said today that Germany will not be supplying Taurus cruise missiles to the Ukrainians, at least not yet. More details. Oops. I gave some more details on the Attackums attack earlier this week and how the Ukrainians were able to take out Russian helicopters that were the same helicopters that basically are the same type of helicopters that had attacked Ukrainian troops back in the beginning of the counteroffensive. So it would have been nice had they had the Attackums earlier. Russian authorities have arrested an dual American-Russian citizen who works for Radio Free Europe, who stupidly enough decided to go to Russia to visit family, and they kidnapped her. Big surprise. So we have yet another hostage in Russia because someone was stupid enough to go to Russia. I have zero sympathy on this one. And NATO announced that it will ramp up patrols of the Baltic Sea, around the Baltic countries after it appears the Russians may have attacked a data pipeline between Sweden and Estonia and a natural gas pipeline between Finland and Estonia. All right, guys, that's it for the news. I'm going to go brush my dog's teeth. I'm going to take a little break for 20 minutes and then put on Joe Biden. And like I said, I may come back on briefly after Biden. Let's see. I don't know. I think I want to watch it first and then decide if I'm coming on. Okay. So I'll let you know. Otherwise, we'll talk about Biden's speech tomorrow. It's on in 20 minutes. Remember, my dog wants my attention. All right. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for joining. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you for being here. Thank you, mods. She's hitting her bowl. When she hits the water bowl, I know it's time to get her more water. I'm coming. All right. Bye, guys. See you later. Thank you. Burp, burp, burp.